Thank you. I knew. Good afternoon, everybody. I knew I'd have to give him the hook because I told him he could keep it steep at 12:30. So thank you all for being here and welcome to the 20th and final State of the City that I have the pleasure and the honor to be able to present to all of you. It was 7,002 days ago that I was elected to this position. Today, in fact, it was 7,002 days ago today. And I will be turning it over to Jake Anderson in 6 days. Not that I'm counting. 6 days more. But I have really, it has been an honor for me to be here to deliver this final State of the City address. And thank you, Mark, and thanks to the Rotary. The Rotary and the Chamber have sponsored this. All of them, all except the very first one. And happy anniversary to the Rotary, by the way. The Rotary's 100th anniversary will be April 27th this year. 100 years ago on April 27th. Congratulations. 22 Rotarians, or future Rotarians at that time, got together and created the St. Cloud Rotary. 20 years prior to that, on February 23rd of 1905, a guy by the name of Paul P. Harris got 3 of his buddies together to create Rotary International. And they did this in Chicago. It was Paul Harris, it was Sylvester, it was Hiram, and Gustav. These 3 guys, so 4 of them, came together and started a Rotary. And they started it in Chicago because it's part of that fellowship. And now, of course, 20 years later, St. Cloud, and there are 27,000 clubs around the country. The St. Cloud's one of the bottom, or I should say 5% oldest that's been around. But the Rotary is really, as Mark said, there's a lot of things in this community that the Rotary has done. And it's really been a proud partner. And by the way, I was a Rotarian before I was mayor. When I became mayor, I left the Rotary because there were partnerships. In fact, I was just looking at my calendar. By the way, when you're mayor, you have to keep everything, Jake, by the way. When you're mayor, so I looked at my calendar going back 20 years ago. I got elected on that Tuesday, and 10 days later, I didn't have any transition. I became mayor. I was sworn in on the 21st of that year, 2005. And then it was Thanksgiving the rest of that week, so I came in. But the very first full week I had a meeting on that Monday. And who did I meet with? I met with the Rotary. And at that time, I was meeting with Troy Fritz, Jerry Hirschfield, Scott Slotnick was at that meeting. Where's Scott? Right here. Scott Slotnick and Prentice Foster. The very first meeting. And I looked at the calendar. It was a meeting that the Rotary was going to give us $1.5 million to the city. That's a meeting we had. And that ended up being $1.6 million. But that was on the first day, really the first week. So that partnership and collaboration has been going on for a very long time. The Rotary has and the other thing I like about the Rotary too is they have this the 4-way test. And this is something that didn't start when the Rotary began. This actually, the 4-way test started by a guy by the name of Herbert Taylor in the 1930s. He was an aluminum company CEO, and he created the 4-way test, became a Rotarian, and then became the 4-way test, And it's before I think, act, or do. Is that the way it goes? I got to make sure I get this right because it's been a while since I've been a Rotarian. But, you got to ask the 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the 4-way test. That's almost the way everybody should be living their life. That's the way government is. Is the truth. That's the issue of trust. Is it fair? That's the issue of accountability. Does it build goodwill and better friendships? That's relationship building. And is it beneficial to all? That's the issue of empathy and compassion. That is something we should all live our lives with, and that's really the way the city and that Rotary, that 4-way test, is something that really, that's why I became a Rotarian as a business owner. And I'll be a Rotarian again. I keep telling Ken, keep making it longer, but 6 or 7, give me a chance to travel. And Ken Vellicott, the president here, and I know Julie Lenning, the chamber president, is here. But that 4-way, there's Julie. And by the way, on that first day when I met with the Rotary, guess who I met with at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Julie Lenning. She was the CVB chair at that time. We were taking pictures over at Hemsing's. I got a picture of you and I meeting here that we had a sandwich. We had a little better beverage over here in this next picture, but I'll show you in a second. But that 4-way test is important. Now, I changed that. The 4-way test it's a little bit to remember. There's 4. I used to give not the commencement speech, but I would speak at SCSU at almost every commencement. In fact, I spoke at more commencements. I remember one of the days, I think it was Ashish Vaidya, who was interim president for a while, and he was recognizing somebody on the platform saying, this person's been to 40-some commencements. And I, raised my hand. I've been to 45 commencements. I think I ended up with 50 of them. I give the same speech, so I kind of took it off the 4-way test, but I made the test a 1-way test, and it's something I picked up from The Office and Dwight Schrute. Some of you have heard this one. Dwight Schrute had a thing. Before I make any decision, I suppose it would be before I think, say, or do, I ask myself, would an idiot do that? And if the answer is no, I wouldn't do that. So you got a 1-way test now, Rotarians. Maybe you can shorten that up at the beginning of a meeting, but the Rotary, thank you for all you do. And the other partner, and this is the chamber, again, a 5-star chamber. This is the picture, when Julie and I first met 20 years ago, we had that meeting. We just moved down 2 doors over to Ray's place and had a beer, so it's much better than the sandwich at Hemsing, although the sandwiches were good there. But, a 5-star chamber, and I've been a chamber member for 34 years. So, as owner of Central Minnesota Driving Academy, I've been a chamber member. The chamber has been a strong and great partner. And I'm announcing today, because I always announce something in these speeches that's ahead, but I'm announcing today that I was honored to be able to get an award from the U.S. Conference of Mayors through Walmart for $20,000. And that $20,000 here, they gave me an award. I thought I could take it home. I couldn't. I had to give it to somebody. So I thought, who do I want to give it to? It's in the issue of sustainability. There's a leadership program, the Chamber's leadership program, which I've had the opportunity to speak to. So I'm donating that $20,000 to the leadership program. That will give a $1,000 scholarship for the next 20 years to somebody, so that the businesses, not all businesses can afford to send somebody. This will help send somebody, though, to the Chamber. So congratulations, Julie, on that, and thank you for that partnership and collaboration. This is my 20th, so that top row is the first 5. So I gave one when I came in. I gave a State of the City in December of that year, and in the first 5 of them I used a podium. So then I moved away from that. But you can see, obviously, the first one the Chamber and the Rotary didn't partner with. I did that here at the old City Hall. But you can see, obviously, the second one. There's the Rotary symbol behind there, and the other ones. I've done these in different places. I even did it during COVID, all by myself in a room with a bunch of cardboard cutouts of folks in there, so there you can see that it was COVID, and so I was just myself, a little different. It was nice because everybody had friendly faces the whole time in there, which was perfect. But the next year it was still COVID, so I did it outside. We did it over at Lake George, and that was an opportunity. But I've done these each year, and it's an opportunity for me to really launch initiatives. And each one of these I've done, we've launched some type of initiative, and I know that most of those initiatives became reality through the collaboration, the partnership with a lot of people. This kind of give you a little example of some of the headlines over that period of time of some of those initiatives over those years. We've had issues, the bridge, upgrades to downtown, time capsules. I had one of the first things I wanted to do, because everybody complained about the post office downtown, so we got to move that post office. So I remember going to Washington. Mike Williams, the city administrator at that time, I don't know if Mike's in here or not, but we went there. We went to Washington to move the post office. We were successful. We moved those post office boxes in front of the post office over to by the federal building. So, we didn't get the whole building, but we got the mail where the mail goes. So, but we did a lot of things. We collaborated. We partnered. St. Cloud State University, Frederick Park, Talahi Woods, they had fences around them. we announced at these beaches to take those fences down, to open up those parks. They became part of our park system. So we initiated a number of things. And also during this speech, I used the opportunity to talk about the finances. The most important responsibility as mayor that I have really is to present a budget. It is in the city charter. It's in the charter. It doesn't say that this budget is going to be assembled by, it's not a council, a community. It gives the responsibility to the mayor, so there's somebody to blame. And so it says the mayor must present a budget every year. And I take this very seriously. To me, it's important because the budget really reflects our priorities and our values. But it's not my money. It's your money that we're entrusted with. And that money that we're entrusted with, it's important that we take care of that money in a way that keeps people in their homes, keeps people, in the community growing. So it's important that we're stewards of that. We've had to make some tough decisions over that period of time. People who know me, I entrust with that trust of money. Whether it's my home or my business, it's important to be responsible and frugal, not cheap like some people think I am. But frugal, and to be responsible with that money. And those budgets that we've had have showed that. If you look at our property tax, and property tax is really a way of, we pay property taxes. And you pay property taxes whether you rent or whether you have a business. We all pay property taxes. But if you go back, and this goes back to 2009, if you actually went back a few years before that, it was pretty much even. The top line is the state average of property tax for the state, for cities. And the bottom line is St. Cloud. You can see that going back a number of years, it was close, but that gap, St. Cloud's kept pretty flat. We have a policy, and that is to capture the growth. It's tough when there's no growth, but capturing the growth is an important thing, and we've been able to keep that property tax down over that period of time, and fees. We don't just shift it to fees. We have the lowest fees when it comes to sewer and water and all those things in the area, bar none. And then the bottom 10% in the state. So it's fees and property tax to keep those costs down. We've been able to do. But really, when you think about, it's really taxes. There's ways to keep the taxes flat and all of that. But the root true test of how you're being responsible with money is what you spend. Spending, and we've kept spending down. In fact, we didn't use the example of the federal government or the state. Because if you think about this, when I became mayor, the spending on an annual basis for the federal government was $2.4 trillion. Do you know what it is now? 2025 projected? Over $6 trillion. So it's more than doubled. The state of Minnesota, when I left the legislature, I don't know what happened. When I left, it was only 27.47%. That's what the annual budget was. And that's billion, excuse me, if I said billion. And now it's over 60 billion. More than double. Both of those more than doubled. St. Cloud, when I took over, my very first budget I had to present versus the budget that is in 2025, the one we just started living under, if you adjust for inflation, is $6 million less than it was back then. 6 million less. That's supposed to be something that you should appreciate. If I have to go through this whole speech and tell you when to appreciate something, we're going to be here a long time. But it's $6 million less. $6 billion is a lot of money. That's more than the entire levy for Sauk Rapids. That's more than the entire levy for St. Joseph. It's close to the levy for Waite Park and Sartell. I can't help it that they raised their levy. Just kidding. But it's a significant savings, and that's spending. But we also have an indicator, and that's our bond rating. You all have credit ratings, and it's important to have a good credit rating. We've had a bond rating increase twice in those 20 years, twice. Even when the federal government had a decrease in their bond rating during especially the Great Recession, it's increased. So that's an external look at our finances. Which is important. But it's spending, and we're still spending, though, on the priorities for the community. And how do we know this? Because we survey people. We determine, we don't just survey by putting something online and then, we work with St. Cloud State University. We develop these questions. We've done them every couple of years. And we get pretty good, responses. 92% overall city services is pretty high. If you've got a 92% rating, if you're in business, all of you are business people, that is pretty high. If you look at it, those are all in the 90s. 9 out of 10 people, when it comes to, you're breaking those down to parks and arts and culture and drinking water, pretty significant high numbers. And we are a state of people who are very difficult to please. I can tell you that. You got a team that's the third best NFL team in the NFL, and people are just, you go on Facebook, you'd think they're the worst possible team there ever was. Because they lose a game. So we're hard to please. So getting 90% as Minnesotans and St. Cloud folks is pretty significant. And we do that. We survey. And we survey not only to see how we're doing, but what we should be doing also with that money. And what people tell us is to prioritize public safety and infrastructure. And public safety, we do prioritize. And we have results. The men and women who are in public safety, police, fire, inspections, there's legal. A lot of folks that are part of that public safety, even the roads you're driving on and the water you're drinking, that's a matter of being focused on public safety. But if you look at those rates, and those of you who were at my last State of the City address, these are down from the last address. And if you remember from that, Part 1 crimes, those are the crimes you should be concerned about. Those are the people crimes. Back then, it was down double digits too. Same thing when you look at property and motor theft. These are all down. And if you look at the last 30 years, the trend has been down over that period of time. Sometimes it's the perception, sometimes what you see on social media isn't always the reality. And it doesn't matter, because if a crime happened to you, it's 100%, so it doesn't matter. But this is important. And even this last year, in St. Cloud in 2024, we had no murders. 0. In 2000, which is, you should apply. In 2000, before I became mayor that year, the year before I became mayor, there were 4 murders. That first year I was mayor, there were 0 murders. So there are 0 murders this year, Jake. So if you get 1 murder, that's a 100% increase in the murder rate. Just kidding. Not his fault. So, unless he commits it, it's not his fault. After a few council meetings, you might be tempted. But if you look also at fire, I put him in the front row, but I do have security here. Fire, and this is something that happened too when I first became mayor. One of the first things I did, we put a referendum on for a police station and fire station. That was 2006. Because we asked the voters. We keep property taxes low, we capture the growth, but when there's a time that we need to ask folks to do something above and beyond, we ask. We don't just do it, we ask. That passed in 2006, and thanks to all of you, we put a fire referendum on this year, and it passed also. So they need it. Those service calls are up. This will save you money, because the quicker they can get there, the quicker it is not only save lives and save property, but save money, because the quicker their response time is, the best rates of insurance that you'll have also. So congratulations to them and all of you for supporting our public safety folks. These are the best of the best, and I can tell you, these are individuals I've had an opportunity to work with, and I've known mayors in cities all over. These folks are really, and it's a difficult position to be in, both of these, fire and police, but they're willing to serve. And so we owe our gratitude to those people who wear the uniforms of our community, to the police and the fire folks in the community. The other part of that priority is infrastructure, roads. When I became mayor, there were 123,477 potholes in St. Cloud. Now there are 47. Just kidding, there aren't that many. There are only 27, but they're in that historic district, so we can't fill them. Seriously, potholes are something, it's one of the P's, potholes, parking, and plowing, they keep coming up. But in the last 5 years, we've done more miles than we did the previous 15 years. So you made it a priority, it is a priority. We heard that, we did our survey, we did the survey during pothole season, so we knew it would be bad. But we put a lot of money into roads, we put investments. So we're not taxing you, we're not spending more money, but we're finding ways to fund the things that are important, that the priorities for the city, and those are those priorities. We're doing those types of priorities. Now, service, this is an opportunity to kind of reflect that I'm in here. You see these photos. That first one, you know, you can see how tough I looked there in the military. That's why we won the Cold War. Fortunately, it was a Cold War, because any type of physical activity I wouldn't have been able to do. But I enlisted in the Air Force in 1981. And as a junior, high school is a delayed enlistment program, so you know, service is important to me. It's been important to my family. It's important to me that I was in the Air Force, had an opportunity to be stationed at the Pentagon and in Okinawa, Japan. That picture there with the beard, that was actually the month I opened my business in 1991, when I became a chamber member too, by the way, that year. So you know, I grew a beard because I was in the military. I couldn't have a beard. I could have a mustache, but I couldn't have a beard till that period of time. So. Had that, and then in the legislature, you know, there's a picture here. You probably recognize some people in there. You recognize that head right there, and that's under the 1995. That's Joanne Benson's head. She was Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, and I know she's in the audience right now. Joanne, my mentor. You know, she has been a friend and a mentor. She held the first fundraiser when I ran for mayor, when nobody knew that was happening that year. And I lost. She's been a great friend and a mentor, and really somebody that's this community. But in front of me is former mayor and another mentor of mine, Chuck Winkleman, who is here. Mayor Winkleman, thank you, Chuck, who is here. I was a state senator, and Chuck, I remember when I ran for mayor, and I'll be talking a little bit more, but I ran for mayor. I went over and got a haircut. Chuck's the barber chair over there on 3rd. And said I was running for mayor, and he goes, you want to manage my campaign? He was trying to get me out of the race that time, even though I wasn't even close to being a threat. And you see someone behind there too. You see Carol Lewis, council member Carol Lewis. She was school board chair there, right there. Standing next to Steve Daler. If you don't know Steve Daler, he was a legislator from the St. Joe area for a number of years, but there's some other folks in there. And then this is as mayor. But I've had an opportunity to serve, and I've served with a lot of different people over the years. There's been a lot of change in leadership over the years. You know, when I became mayor, George W. Bush was president of the United States. Tim Pawlenty was governor of Minnesota. Our 2 U.S. senators were Mark Dayton and Norm Coleman. Our congressman was Mark Kennedy at that time. Our legislators were Joe Opatz and Jim Knobloch. I don't know if Jim's in the audience or Joe's here. Jim's back there. And I was the state senator. And then, of course, I became mayor. So then there was an election for state senator with Dan Oxner and Terrell Clark. I can't remember which one won. I don't know. Is Oxen here somewhere, Terrell? Oh, there's Oxen. Did you win?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Terrell here to dispute that? Okay, all right, yeah. That's right. But that was the legislature. And then the president of the university at the time was Roy Seigo. I don't know if Larry Dietz is in here today, Larry here, the new interim president, but Roy Seigo was president of the university, and the interim president of the Technical Community College was Lori Clues. Just kidding, Lori wasn't. She was interim so many times, I don't remember. It was Joan Volkmuth at that time, who was the Technical Community College president at that time. Superintendent was Bruce Watkins. I know Bruce is here. It was a superintendent at that time when I came in, and you know, there's a lot of folks in this picture that, you know, I've had an opportunity to serve and really have become friends over the time. The mayors in this area was a little different. The mayors, when I became mayor, the mayor of Waite Park was Carla Schaefer. The mayor of Sauk Rapids was Mark Campbell. The mayor of St. Joe was Richard Carlbaum. And the mayor of, I can't remember if it was Ventura or St. Augusta at that time. You know, St. Augusta was Ventura, the city of Ventura for a period of time, but that was Bob Kroll. So at that period of time. And the mayor of Sartell was Bob Bukachnik. You know, I've got a picture here, though, next to the mayor, Sarah Jane Nichols. She was the mayor of Sartell. You see that's a cardboard cutout of mine? Because, and I have this cardboard cutout. The reason there's a cardboard cutout, because the gated community of Sartell, I've never been on the list to be able to get in. So the only way I could get in there is through that cardboard cutout. So I appreciate Sarah Jane allowing me to get in there. I could say what I want. I'm gone. I'm done here in a week. So It's going to get better. I mean, I'm giving you all kinds of material. I don't know if you go to the Pioneer Place, Jay Terry, who does that Granite City Radio. Jay's in there. He's been playing mayor. He's just here to pick up material so he can use that. Look out, Jake, because he'll come up with a new one. Our council, the city council president at that time when I became mayor was Mike Landy, and this is the council folks that I've had the honor to serve with, and these folks that are here, George Hontos, Jeff Gerger, I'm going to have Dave on the next slide, but Carol Lewis, you got 3 individuals who I was able to serve with for a number of those years that are here, and thank you. These are folks that are no longer going to be on the council but have tremendous amount of service. Jeff, Carol, and George. I don't know if George is here anywhere. But, and here we have some new, and then Huda Ibrahim, whom somebody 19 years ago I met Huda. And Huda, I put her on this 2024 elected folks because she was sworn in. She served for a full meeting and 7 minutes. And like dog ears, 7 minutes on the council is 10 hours. So she's really put in some time. And so we congratulate Huda. We actually congratulate, here's the 2025 City Council. So we're adding along with Huda and we have Dave Masters, who now, if you look at this group, and this is the thing about change, and times change, and this is unique from St. Cloud because you look at some of this change. Of all of those 7 people there's only one council member who was born and raised in St. Cloud, and that's Dave Masters. And that's unique, and that's good because most people in St. Cloud have come to St. Cloud over that period of time. So Dave and Mike Conway and we got Karen Larson and Huda Ibrahim and Mark Johnson, Scott Brodeen and Tammy Calhoun, I think, are over. You're new. See, they're always waiting in the wings till they can come on to this stage over here. But congratulations to you. And we have a new council, and I've had the opportunity to swear in council members, and this is the unique part of it. I've had opportunity to swear in members over this period of time. And I've also, growing up, and Jake, this is probably helpful for you too, I learned to get along. You were on the council, but I learned to get along with the council because as a kid I watched Sesame Street. If there was a Grouch, a Big Bird, and watching one of them back over the cookies, there was a Cookie Monster. They're Elmo, this is like the city council, I'm sorry. But one of the things too about the city council is that, and I got to congratulate Mark Johnson, there has always been a Johnson on the council since I've been mayor. You started with Bob, you got Jeff, you got Mark, so congratulations on that. But this is, again, the elected officials we have, and then boards and commissions. I've had the opportunity to select, to actually appoint all the folks that are on the boards and commission. These are volunteers in our community. These are people that donate their time. And really, thanks to all of you. If you're on a board or commission, you should see your face up there. If your face isn't up there, you weren't attractive enough. Just kidding. I'll just flip that because now you're going to look. So we're going to go right off of that because I don't want you to see whether you were there or not. We do a lot of work on putting these together. Our city staff. This is the people who serve you. This is the folks. These are dedicated individuals, and I have the honor. When people ask me, what are you going to miss when I'm no longer mayor? It's working alongside these people. I mean, these are really the top notch. You get tremendous bang for the buck with the folks that here. In fact, this year I give this Reflection of the Year award every year. This year, that's for the 2024 Election of the Year, is for the city staff because they are really remarkable. They do all of the things that make this city, and you don't notice it because when it works and it operates, it's because of all the work that they're doing. So they could be doing other things, and that's the thing. I got my leadership team here, my executive leadership team, and I have one more opportunity to ask them to sit in the front row because they would not be here. They'd be somewhere in the back because they never really want to be the attention. But this executive leadership team here, they do what they're doing because they care for the community and they're dedicated. They all could be doing something different. And I kind of was thinking about that in the last couple of months. What would these people do if they weren't doing what the jobs they're doing? Well, I tell you, they'd have different careers. Matt Staling would be the chief of staff for the Army, military guy. And there aren't many military guys. Matt and Scott Slotnick are the only two military. In fact, if you look at the council, there's no one that served in the service and the military. And that's a loss, I think, because veterans are important. But Matt would be chief of staff. And Matt, for the city, for all of you, we wish Matt well. He's going to be going to Duluth to be the city administrator to Duluth. I've had the opportunity to promote him twice to city attorney and to city administrator. He is not only a good friend, he is a remarkable individual, has really done a good job. I feel bad because at my last State of the City, the mayor of Duluth was here, and he was impressed with the city, impressed with Matt, so he stole him. So I didn't invite any mayors here at this meeting. You should appreciate that, Jake, because if I did, you got other people that would be leaving. But Matt, to you, congratulations on your new endeavor, and thank you for that service. Deanna would be out. She'd be doing tours in the kind of in Yellowstone and all this area. She'd be digging up pots of money, because somehow she always does it for me. So she'd be figuring out that. So she'd be in a different career. You got Matt Glazman, who he'd be coaching in the NHL. He'd be an NHL team. In fact, he would have refused to coach any team in Canada until now, because now they're going to be the 51st state. But he would be coaching there. I mean, where's Matt? He's not sitting in the front row. He's in the back. Yeah, he's one of the blue of those personality things. He's back there. He'd be. And then you got Tracy Hodel, who would be. Here's a picture of her. She'd be on Mars. She'd be the one that would discover. She would discover water and a way to harness the energy from that water, and she'd be leading the first colony in Mars. And then Micah Myers. Micah would be, he'd be he'd be a country singer, as you can see here, but he's an IT guy, so he'd have this big hit single, babe, you're all wrong, so turn him down and turn me on, because that's an IT thing, That'd be his country hit signal he'd have. I know he'd be a. And then you got Jeff Oxen, and this is important because he'd be a commercial airline pilot. And you know where he got that? I taught him how to drive, by the way, and his wife. And she didn't like to say that, but your wife's not here. But she had an accident during that lesson, by the way. But Jeff would be a commercial pilot, and there'd be no way in hell there'd be a stowaway on that flight. And then Renee Courtney, she'd be a judge, but she'd be a TV judge. She'd be a municipal court TV judge, not like night court. She'd just be dealing with elected officials, keeping them straight on open meeting law and all the rest of that stuff. No, she'd be award-winning TV show. Scott Slotnick would be a park ranger. He'd have his own action figure, and he'd be scouring the woods looking for time capsules that I happen to bury over the years. And you got Matt Love, who, he would have been in finance if you were. That's what I understand. You would have been finance, and you would have been. I couldn't make him like the Wolf of Wall Street because he's just too nice a guy. And it really would be odd if you're a financial guru and you're the lamb or the sheep of Wall Street. That wouldn't be together. So he'd be the Mustafa, the wise lion of Wall Street. But he'd be in a whole different thing. But this is your team. They chose to do what they're doing, but they could have done other things. And they're a great part of the team. Thanks to all of you. So stand up, please. These are the folks that are in front. These are in the back. And any city folks, I know there's a number of folks here. Any city employees, stand up, be recognized. See, all the rest of them are in the back. They're hiding. But these are great. Partnerships and collaboration. We've had some tremendous partnerships and collaboration over the years, whether it's neighborhoods, whether it's the university, it's the arts, whether, some of this is public safety, a public safety foundation. With that partnership, we created a cop house. There'll be 2 more cop houses on the east side. So there'll be 1 in each county, community outposts. We've done a great partnership and collaboration with the university, with the neighborhoods. We started years ago this neighborhood. We had a cabinet in our leadership. We had the neighborhood cabinet. We did best practices in collaboration with the council and all of those things. You've got some, we did a number of things collaborating with different organizations. There's lots of nonprofits in this area. I can tell you there's organizations like Create Community and the Jugard Leadership Program. These were really instrumental in making change in the community. And then oftentimes when you've done the change, and then things fade a little bit because there's not that need. But we continue to reinvent and create partnerships and collaboration, because that's really what's brought our community forward. And we've won awards for those collaborations and those partnerships. We won in almost every area. In fact, this LivCom award. Back in 2007, I think was the first time we went to London, 2007. We went to this. First of all, you had to be selected to apply. And out of, only so many cities around the country could be accepted to then actually compete. And we went there, we won second place in the most livable city in our population category. But we won the best for planning for the future of all the population categories. We thought in fact, we didn't even know there was a category for that. All of a sudden they were announcing, and we thought, it sounds like us. And we won this award. And we'd been a few other times, but in 2019, and this has kind of got lost because after 2019 came 2020, and all kinds of things happened in 2020, so people forgot what happened in December of 2019. But we went to the same competition. This competition's been going on since the 90s. It's a United Nations type of competition, but we're competing with cities all over the world. We came back. They have 4 categories for all population categories. And then they have the city based on population. And we were in 2019, we were in that population from 75,000 to 150,000. We won the most livable city in the world that year, but we also won, of the 4 categories, engagement, arts, sustainability, we won 3 of them. No other city and this has started in the early 90s, in the world has won that many awards. St. Cloud won that because of all of you and the partnerships and collaboration. That's an important feat that we did. We did that in 2019. And a number of those things that we learned and took those ideas. I remember, in fact, I see Dave Tripp in here. Remember, we came back. You were the head of Metrobus. Now it's Ryan. I got to mention Metrobus every time I give a speech because Ryan Daniel gets mad if I don't. But Dave, you were on that trip when we were in London. In fact, Deborah Lee, there's some other folks in this room that were part of our community partners that were part of that. But there's some good things happening that are continuing to happen, and there's some issues of sustainable. Our budget is in good shape. Financially, we're doing well. Our bond rating is high. The quality of life, we've got some great things. We've got 100 parks in this community. We've got a tremendous pride in our neighborhoods, and this is something about neighborhoods. There's a lot of pride in our neighborhoods. When we do that survey, people always really high on their neighborhood. They're sometimes not high on somebody else's neighborhood, but their neighborhood they are, and that's what's important because each neighborhood is unique. Each neighborhood has its own characteristics. Each neighborhood is continually changes, just like the families and individuals in those neighborhoods. That's some pretty important quality of life. We got some great things happening in the future. We got a children's museum that's going to be going on downtown. This is an exciting thing. One of the first one in Greater Minnesota on the issues of partnerships. Again, the collaboration that we're doing, sustainability. We are leading the world. I was kidding about Mars, but I think Tracy could do that because what we're doing with Tracy and her team. We're going to be the first in the world to create hydrogen at our plant out here, the first in the world to do that. When folks are moving to alternative energy, we've been doing it. We set goals, we've achieved those goals way ahead of time, and we're leading the world on that area. And the slogan that her and her team came up with, poop to power. Y'all got to do it, and it's got to go somewhere. We might as well create some energy out of it. But those things are in place. And last year said we're going to start collecting oil this year. The next year coming forward, we're going to start collecting garbage. The oil was easy. The collecting garbage is going to be more difficult, Jake. That's why you're doing it. But we're going to be doing that this year because that is things that are going. And then downtown, there's momentum in downtown. You know, we started, years ago as part of these speeches. We didn't have the regional economic development was done. It was public sector led. Now it's private sector led. The Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation, GSDC, is leading that. We have an EDA. Kathy Mihelich is the first EDA director, the only one. We've created that. We've done some things with the downtown task force that we created. Toby Peter, who was a graduate from this building and started our exchange program with our Spalt Germany. He and Chris Leinberger, really our issue of walkability, and really pushed us into what we could do downtown. And it's moving forward, but it was a public initiated but privately led, and now it's fully going to be privately led. In fact, they're meeting right now. Some people aren't here because they're meeting on the downtown next steps, and thanks to the chamber for kind of pushing and leading that issue also. But there's some great things happening in the downtown, and it's moving forward private led. Housing and all the things we've talked about are going to happen down there, but there's also some exciting things that are going to happen downtown. The Stearns County, the jail is going to leave, so jail is out. Baseball's in. You'll like this, Carol, because Carol Lewis likes this baseball stadium. It's just the future picture, obviously, but this wouldn't be a bad idea. To talk about moving the post office, we got the boxes out of there. Now you can move the building and put a stadium. But one of the things actually, and this is far from a reality because this makes sense. This is something Chris Leinberger talked about downtown. We've had conversations with the VA. Veterans, the VA is the best VA in the country. I can tell you our VA is the best VA in the country. So when their mission is about veterans, that's what they need to do. And their mission isn't about baseball, so when they need more space, which is going to be the case, we're probably not going to have that lease renewed. But we have baseball there, and why not partner with the university, with amateur baseball, and do that? And why not put a stadium down there? That would actually make sense to do. So this may look futuristic, but it's about building something in the future, and there's an opportunity to do that now, especially as we transition out of what's going to be at the MAC. Now, I know Glazman would want hockey down there, and then we could just keep the jail there because what kind of the best penalty box in the league? But we're going to put baseball here, and one thing we have done, we've built a lot. We've done a lot of buildings in this community, and this is that none of these existed 20 years ago. So you get an idea of what has existed. Some of them existed in a different form, but we've built a lot. We've done a lot of buildings. We've done this through collaboration and partnership. Almost everything we've done is somehow partnering with some other group or individual to do it. It's not just the city doing it. It's collaborative effort. But more than all of the buildings we've built, the most important thing that we built is partnerships and relationships. And this, again, going back to the four-way test, this is about, does it build, goodwill and better friendships? I mean, this really is the importance. You can do things when you're doing things together and you're doing things with mutual collaboration and respect. You can accomplish a lot, but you can't just have a meeting and build a relationship. You can't just meet with a bunch of people and say, okay, now we've got all these relationships. No, it takes a lot of time. It takes intentional effort. The reason I've had 1,000 town hall meetings is so you meet and talk to people. I do this dinner with strangers at my house, and that's helped to gain connection with people. I've done these updates. In fact, I got the COVID one on there. I've done over 1,000 of these little updates. Any of you see any of them? I didn't think so because they're not very well. Oh, okay, yeah, of course, Jay has. That's where he gets his material from. But during COVID, we had these daily updates during COVID. But it's connection. It's keeping people informed of what's going on, but more importantly is creating that type of connection. And you really never know where and when that is important until you're challenged with crisis. And I can tell you over the last 20 years, we have had challenges with crisis situations. One of the very first things that happened was, I think I came in and it was, Ken Robinson. Robinson at Water. We had E. coli in the water. It was a false test, eventually became a false test, but we had to get people to boil their water. And it wasn't too long after that we had to get people to run their water so they wouldn't freeze their pipes. So those were some major things. I remember the very first reverse 911, back before everybody had all the cell phones. We actually had landline. I still have a landline, but landlines, we called everybody, told them to run their water, and we got people that complained about calling them about running their water, but we also told people, boil their water. But there was also something, early in that first year, it was really difficult. Scott Radel, young 21-year-old St. Cloud State University student, went missing. In fact, we had searched for days, not knowing where he was. This was the same time there were some missing college students around the country, and there was all kinds of rumors as to what could possibly have happened. Unfortunate for him, he was crossing the Mississippi River. Most of it was ice and snow, and he fell into the river and lost his life. But we had been searching, and one thing we noticed as we were searching, we didn't have camera footage anywhere. Cameras were expensive. His dad actually put the first $5,000 up. We partnered. He wanted to have dollars so that we could put cameras, and now we've got cameras everywhere. And it was because of that tragedy, that out of that tragedy came, Scott Radel was really, and his dad was really impetus of what we did in the area of public safety. But there are a lot of, look at those headlines. There are some things that were challenging, but there were some pretty significant major challenges in our community. 2008, the recession. King Banya didn't cause it, by the way. I don't know if King's in the room. He's just telling us about it. But the recession in 2008, really, and this is also too, we've prepared for these things through relationship building. In 2007, we put a hiring freeze on. We stopped spending. We knew the economic times were going to be the housing bubble had crashed. We did a lot of changes. We did a whole new budgeting for results. We changed what we did to get through that. And then we've always been doing relationship building. So when the Molotov happened at Crossroads, I remember that night. I remember getting that call from Chief Anderson at the time, and going out there, and all night we were on the phone talking to folks. And we wouldn't be able to do that if they had their number. People wouldn't answer our phone calls in the middle of the night if we didn't have relationships. And what didn't happen in this area happened in every other place. We didn't have a riot. We didn't see a backlash, and this was something that Al-Qaeda took credit for right away. In fact, it was actually mentioned at the presidential debate between Trump and Clinton, but fortunately they mentioned the mall in Minnesota. Everybody just thought it was the Mall of America, not St. Cloud, which was good for us. But it was something that was really, because of the relationships, what didn't happen, and what did happen was the unity in the area. COVID 2020, I can tell you, because going back on my calendar, I had a table exercise on pandemics the second week I was mayor with Marv Klug at that time. I know Aaron Hughes. Marv was the director, and we did this, and we went through all this scenario about all the people. And who knew that in 2020 we'd actually have to implement that plan? And in 2020, the issue of civil unrest, we had a community policing agreement. All these things way in advance before other cities were all of a sudden fighting us and establishing them. We built relationships, and were able to get through some of the most difficult times because the community came together, and we did that ahead of time. And this is something from a community, but I can tell you, as somebody who had some difficult times myself during that time, this community steps forward. I can tell you that the two most difficult times during this 20 years, I was hosting an exchange student, Alex Voigt. Alex, known to his friends here, and Sasha was his name, known by his friends and family at home in Germany. I was entrusted, in fact, one of the most difficult calls I ever made in my life was when I had to call his mom to tell them that Alex wasn't coming home. That was a difficult, but I can remember this because she comforted me on that call. And the community, the people, there's a lot of people in this room who comforted me during that time, and that's where community comes together. The other call was very difficult, and that's when my older brother Gary called and told me that my little brother, my younger brother Tom, had taken his life in 2020. That also was not only extremely difficult, But it was something that, because of this community and the folks, my sisters know this, they're here, it was a difficult thing. Both these individuals, though, I hesitated, because this is tough for me, but I hesitated to put them in here, but I knew if they were still with us, they'd be in this room. And I know they're here. Tom was a Marine, and Tom is somebody who he took, and this is something, and I got to mention it because this is the person who he made a decision to exit this world, and that's why I always tell people, be kind. You never know what somebody's going through. But this guy, not only, who pays all their bills and even rents a place and pays up the rent for months in advance, and then does everything he can. That is somebody who cares, and that's somebody. These were difficult times. But it's because of the people in this room, it's because of this community to get through this. This was tough. And Scott Olson, the pilot who was flying, and Alex was just going up on his last day to take some pictures of St. Cloud, and that unfortunately died in a plane crash. And Tom, again, made a decision. But this community, I know, stands together, and I thank those of you who are in here because of who you are, got us through some difficult times as a family. Our histories are full of the good, they're full of the bad. What makes us who we are it's the stories. There are such remarkable stories in this community of people that, and this is the piece that makes a community, it's the stories. We've got a long history in our community. This goes back, if you see in that upper corner there, the Mississippi in the background, you see that guy sitting up on the hill. That's Jeff Gerger. Sorry, Jeff. Told you, Jeff, when you reach 70, you're going to get all the old jokes you can, but that's all right. That's all right. But, hey, I could do this all to the council, but we have a new council now. Most of the council, prior to the council that we have now, when they were little kids in high school, they pledged allegiance to a flag that only had 48 states on it. So, but I won't do that. I'll keep away from the old state. But anyway, this, things change. Even downtown, you look at downtown, I use these 3 downtown pictures because you had the streetcar going to Waite Park, that was the train to nowhere. I'm just kidding. But you had that streetcar going in that area, but then you had Crossroads, and Crossroads was a big deal. Everybody's excited about Crossroads, but that changed downtown because that was a mall, and so the city made some decisions at that time. And you look at that picture, that's downtown in the early 90s. I have the Kleist Motel in there because I got to put this to rest once and for all on Reddit. No, that is not my hotel. And no, it wasn't my hotel. But that was, that I had my great-grandfather and his brother came over here in the late 1800s. One of them settled in Eden Valley Watkins, one settled in St. Cloud. I'm the descendant of the Eden Valley Watkins one. The St. Cloud one is Pete Kleist, who started the Kleist Motel and started the Dairy Queen. That was one of the first motels in this area. But many years later became the first meth lab in this area. Sorry, I'm just kidding. But anyway, and Jeff will know that's true. But that also, speaking of first, that roundabout is the first. St. Cloud had the first roundabout. Sartell, sorry, you didn't have all the roundabouts. This was controversial. This was University and Fifth, but that's our history, and that's an important piece of our history. And we've got a history with mayors. Our first mayor, Sylvanus B. Lowry. The youngest mayor, George Byers, he was 29 when he became mayor. Korean War vet, pilot. Chuck Winkleman, who was Chuck here, the oldest living mayor. Now, if Sylvanus B. Lowry was still alive, he'd be older than you, Chuck. He'd be half his age. But Chuck Winkleman and John Ellenbecker, who was the previous mayor. John, the first thing I did when I became mayor was I gave John a day because, John, wasn't planning on running against John when I ran for mayor, but I did, and then I'm the longest serving mayor. But the year I ran for mayor the first time was in 1989. And, we got somebody else here that I want to recognize, and that's Kermit Eastman. Because the year I ran for mayor in 1989, when I went over and asked Chuck if I should run, the 2 people on the left were the 2 top vote getters in the primary. And the 2 on the right were the bottom 2 vote getters. And the guy that's next to me, the guy that looks like he was on Welcome Back Carter, his dad, the guy up there, that was Bud Murphy. He pulled out of the race about 2 weeks before the election, but he still beat me. I had less than 100 votes and 120 people at my campaign party. So, but I learned a lot at that time. But Kermit, Superintendent Kermit and Chuck, thank you so much for being here. I know, Kermit, you've been a long-time Rotarian, and I'm glad you could be here. And Chuck, you've been a tremendous mentor to me, and I'm glad you could be here. You were here when we cut the ribbon. You've served in 3 city halls, and both of you veterans. So thank you. I salute both of you for being here. In 2001, some other people ran for mayor back then, and this is something unique that you probably didn't know this, because I certainly didn't remember it, and I was there and I voted probably on that day. But Jake also, our mayor-elect, our new mayor, ran for, I think he was just leaving 5th grade or whatever that is up here. But Jake was, John Ellenbecker and Mike Landy. Remember Mike Landy, a good friend of mine, and I wish he was here, because Mike had this blueprint. It's like 10 pages. And it was his plan. And on his brochure, he had on his plan, read the plan and then vote for the man. I mean, who doesn't win an election with that type of thing? But, Mike and John and, Jake, and Jake, congratulations to you, by the way, for mayor. You're going to... I know you're going to do well. You've been on the council, and you've I always feel don't blame me for the budget. You voted for them, so you go work for 2 of them. And that's the thing. 20 budgets I've had, and no one's ever tried to change anything, or no one actually did. But Jake, congratulations to you. Things are going to be a little different, though. In 4 years, you're going to look like that. This job will age you. That's one of the things with being mayor. I mean, I didn't have any gray hair when I came in here. If you looked at those pictures, I didn't have any gray hair for four or five of those states. So I want you to remember something, though, because in 4 years, you're going to look like that, and I'm going to look like this. You, me. Can't back out now. But one way that I think you can handle this in a way that won't create too much stress for you is you got to be careful. Don't say too many promises. And I only made 2 promises when I ran for mayor, and that was to bring paddle boats back to Lake George and to have a town hall meeting every week. That was the only 2 promises I made, and I christened the paddle boat right away. That was the spring of that year, so we got the paddle boats back thanks to Jason Bernick. It was an Aquafina paddle boat, so we didn't pay for it either. We got to donate it. And then I had my 1,000 town hall meeting right in that same area. So we did the town halls, we did the boats, so we did what we promised to do. Jake just made 2 promises to us all, and that was to reopen the tunnels in downtown St. Cloud. And to have the city plow everybody's drivewalk and everybody's driveway and sidewalk. So when you accomplish that, you let me know. Take a picture of that, because we appreciate that. I'm kidding, of course. He's going to personally shovel everybody's walk, but no. And people think there are secret tunnels all over the place. We haven't come across any of them, but maybe there are. But Jake you had 2 more promises, because you're going to need in the revenue side of things, and you got to figure out one way to create revenue. And what's the biggest issue that most people have in this community? Parking. So you've got to figure out a way to do that. So how about slot machines for parking meters? You go down, you put your quarter in. Quarter might do it, might give you the hour, but who knows? You could win a week, a month, a year. Creative way to raise some money. Another thing, we get all these people that come in from out of town. They're coming in from Sartell and Sauk Rapids and Wade Park, and they're using our picnic tables and our benches. Why shouldn't we pay them for that? Picnic table parchment meters. There you go. Start metering this stuff. That'll keep these folks off here in those areas. But no, these are if these don't happen in a year, it'll be on you. Just kidding, of course. I want to thank all of you And it is clearly and truly been an honor for me to serve as your mayor for 20 years. You know, I cannot say enough about how much gratitude I feel for your willingness to entrust me with your home. And I am so proud of this community. This is a community that I love. This is a community that I will always call home. You know, this is going back to, you know, the world is, you know, the world will always be changing. And change is important. We need to adapt to that change. I'm paraphrasing Paul Harris, actually, the first Rotarian. You know, but we need to change with it. And St. Cloud's going to have a change in leadership. But I'm confident, because of all of you in this room supporting that change and that team, there are great things ahead for St. Cloud. So I thank you for that opportunity. And as I exit, I will always be in St. Cloud. I'll always be a resident. But I will always be part of this community, because it's a community I love and will always call home. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Now, thank you. I just want to, Elisa got me this, and I just want to do this, and she wanted me to wear it, but now that, you know, it's in my last day, so I was going to almost wear this, but just so if you have an issue, just remember that. So, but thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you.